Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 12. Text 5. Chapter entitled Devotional Service. So we'll read the Sanskrit, we recite the Sanskrit. Kleshodikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavad viravapyate. Word for word. Kleshaha, trouble. Adhikataraha, very much. Tesham, of them. Avyakta, to the unmanifested. Asakta, attached. Chetasam, of those whose minds. Avyakta, towards the unmanifested. He, certainly. Gatihi, progress. Dukkham, with trouble. Deha vadbihi, by the embodied. Avapyate, is achieved. For those whose minds, repeat, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadatara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Adhishtarne. Sorry, I forgot what. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatya Dashitarine. Okay, purport is quite long, but it's many points, and it's very important topic, and also it's deep, because Bhakti Yoga is very deep, and we can understand Bhakti Yoga according our depth, according how much it is revealed to us. So that's why I'm saying that it is very deep, because it talks about Bhakti Yoga, and each sentence we may be able to understand the way we understand it. So let's try to see what we can discuss here, because there are so many points, as I said, and they are very important, because the Bhakti Yoga, this is what we are. This is what we do. So, the group of transcendentalists who follow the path of inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service of the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. So here it is mentioned that Bhakti Yoga is natural. So we can contemplate what this Krishna consciousness movement is about. It is about devotional service, because Bhakti Yoga means devotional service. Bhakti means feelings and emotions, it's also there, but it also means activity, because and it's together. The feeling and activity is together. The activities must be there because the soul is active. Like we have this simple example that the body is active as long as soul is in the body. When the soul leaves, body drops. It cannot act. It becomes no better than any other dull matter. So soul is active. So if the soul is so active in a conditioned state, how much more active it can be in a free state. Would you mind to sit on that side, and the ladies? So then how much more active the soul is in a liberated state. So it is like, we can see when a bird is in a cage, it also flips the wings and moves around, but when you let the bird fly, how much more he can fly. He can make circles in the sky and so many things. So therefore, Bhakti is not just activity of a conditioned soul. We have learned it many times that Bhakti is actually, devotional service is a constitution of the soul. It is the actual nature of the soul. So means the soul, the nature of the soul is to act, is to be active. So that's why Bhakti Yoga, definitely there is an action. There is an action. And there is also feelings. Because without feelings, what is this movement? Some kind of movement. Maybe fan is moving around without any feelings. But whatever person does, some feelings are involved. Some emotions are involved. And these emotions technically, and feelings are technically called rasa. Yeah? Like rasa is a juice. So the main part of the fruit is a juice. When something is juicy, the mango, the apple or orange, it is very nice. Yeah? So the essence of all existence of a living entity are these feelings and emotions. In fact, that's what makes it different from non-living beings, that it has a feelings and emotions. So then there are different types of emotions. There are emotions which are very, we could say, in a lower level. This belongs to this material world, which basically is about me and myself and those who are around me or connected with me, which is material emotions. That's why Prabhupada said that this kind of rasa is also in a material world. Brothers, sisters, lovers, husbands, wives, servants and masters. But then there is a pure rasa, bhakti rasa, which is with person, with the individual person and the Supreme Lord. And it's described by acharyas that kind of rasa can fully manifest in a purified heart. So by bhakti yoga, that heart can also be purified. And then this devotion generates the true emotions. So basically, devotion means emotions. And even in impurified state, we can feel some resemblance in our heart. When we do something for Krishna, sincerely, we feel something in our heart. Because Krishna is reciprocating. So that's why we feel. So then there is this rasa. But we should not mistake it, of course, as if that it is a perfected state. But we should not also make a mistake by thinking that this perfected state is not attainable. It is attainable. This is our prayojana, and we should engage in such activities, and form our life in such a way that as fast as possible we can attain that perfection. So whatever we do, we should not lose that focus. So this is bhakti yoga, and that's what Prabhupada said, that it's natural. So I started to make the point about our Krishna consciousness society, and not just our Krishna conscious society, any society which propagates bhakti yoga. But because we are from ISKCON, so we naturally talk about our society. So what is it? This bhakti yoga, we know we join and we perform bhakti yoga, we perform devotional service. So then we could say that this is not a religion. Bhakti yoga is not just a religion. We can say, oh, it is a lifestyle. Yeah. But I would say it's not a lifestyle, because anybody who is doing gardening can say that's my lifestyle. Someone's playing football, that's my lifestyle. Someone's playing rock music, oh, that's my lifestyle. Someone's traveling. So this is also a kind of designation and mundane classification. This is my lifestyle. So it basically leaves space to somebody to say, and that's your lifestyle. So this is not a lifestyle. This is something more than a lifestyle. We don't limit our practice to just a lifestyle. So then we can say it is a habit. So it is something more. We are habituated. We just do it as our second nature, we could say. But even that is more, because habit is something that you acquire. But actually this devotional service in Bhakti Yoga, it is not a lifestyle, and it is not our habit, it is our nature. This is our nature. So that's why Prabhupada said that any other process of attaining self-realization is troublesome. But Bhakti Yoga is not troublesome, because it's natural. It's natural. The living entity in his pure state has senses. And in this gross state, we also have senses. So this is a common part. But there is a bigger difference, because these senses which we have now are gross, and they are covering our real senses. And these real senses are actually experiencing real taste. Srila Prabhupada explains in one class, like when you have a tongue and you can lick something sweet and you can feel the sweet taste. But when you wrap the tongue around with a lot of cloth and you lick, can you taste? You cannot taste anything. So he says this gross body and even subtle body, it is like this wrapping cloth around our spiritual body. So that's why when we are so much as much as we identifying with the gross and a subtle body, this much we cannot taste that spiritual rasa, that spiritual sweetness. So we are to be purified to start tasting. And even in the process of purification, the taste will be there. Otherwise, what keeps us to continue? You know, like that's why Jnana Yoga and other paths, they are troublesome, because they don't have that taste that which gives them some other experiences, some different attachment, where they can burn the previous experiences and attachment into that fire of new experiences. So jnana yogis don't have that. So then someone will say, okay, senses, yes, so jnana yogis, what they do, they artificially try to control sense. And what artificially means, it means by mechanical process, means by exercise. Okay, I'm not doing this and I am doing this. It's like an exercise. So they're not getting taste from that. But it said that so they are trying to stop desires by deliberation. But desires cannot be stopped because desires are compared with rivers flowing in the ocean. So it cannot be stopped. So we will read more and then we will come back to the rivers of the desires which flow to the ocean. So the bhakti yoga process is natural, easy and natural. Easier and is natural. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the bhakti yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna and nirguna, the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. So saguna is when the Supreme Person possesses attributes like deity, form, plus all the paraphernalia. That's a way of worshipping the deity. But then there is also how we can worship in our mind without all these attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood or oil, paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. The crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form, and the Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the service of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So Prabhupada here explains the importance of the deity, that it is Krishna's mercy to manifest himself in the incarnation of Archa Vigraha form. So it means that Krishna is actually there in any kind of deity, whether it's a painting or it's a wood or metal or stone. So Krishna manifests in that way that in our conception we can actually perceive him in that way, and in that way we render service to the Lord, that we can see, we can cook for the Lord, we can dress, because like Prabhupada said, some bodily concept is there, so we need to apply it. So that's a unique feature of Bhakti Yoga, that all the conditionings what we have, we can actually engage in the Bhakti Yoga and they become purified naturally. So there we can come back to the rivers of where do the rivers flow? They usually flow in the ocean. So it is, the question can be, we know that for self-realization we have to control the senses, which means to control the desires, because desires and the senses are closely connected, because that's how you fulfill the desires, with the senses. Yeah, the tongue needs some satisfaction, the ear needs some satisfaction, the skin. So that's how desires develop, through those senses. So the senses need satisfaction, and we try to fulfill it. But it's suggested that these desires actually bind us to this material world. Like it is said that banyan, in the 15th chapter, the banyan tree is growing and the reflection is situated on the water. So this reflection is this material world. And what is the water? The water is a desire. So basically, by our desire we are here, and everything what is happening in our lives, it is because of our desire. So if we purify our desire, then the problem is solved. But to purify our desire, we need to engage in bhakti-yoga, because any other system does not offer us such an option. They offer us to stop it. So someone can say, so how can one regulate or stop the desires if they are like rivers? They just flow. They just flow. So what can we do to stop? So then it is explained that where do the rivers flow? As we mentioned, the rivers flow in the ocean. But when the tidal waves of the ocean come, they overflood the river. And although the riverbed exists, still the waves of the ocean become prominent. And this means that the higher desire becomes prominent. So it is explained that like a devotee whose desires are like rivers engages in devotional service of the Lord full day, 24 hours, then naturally his thinking and his desires and his planning of his life molds into Krishna consciousness, and his all powers, intellectual and mental power, is actually dovetailed into Krishna consciousness. So these desires become Krishna conscious desires, because he's not anymore thinking of me, he's actually thinking of Krishna. So that's why we need to engage 24 hours in devotional service. That's what bhakti yoga means. If we see any kind of serious yogi practitioner, he is not doing something for 2 hours a day and the rest of the day he is doing something else. So the same with us also. We shouldn't just think that because I finished my 16 rounds for 2 hours and I put my bead bag that side, and then I can do through all the day whatever else. Actually, our activities should be 24 hours molded into Krishna consciousness, into devotional service. Then that's what it is. And someone might say, yes, but I have my duties and I need to perform in a material world. And it's true. We recently were reading this group of devotees' introduction of Bhagavad-Gita, and it's such an amazing thing. Srila Prabhupada does explain there that you can do your duties in a material world, but you need to do them in Krishna consciousness. But then he says, but first you have to become Krishna conscious. It's not that you do something and you say, yes, I'm Krishna conscious, but actually we need to first become Krishna conscious. So how do we become Krishna conscious? By performing devotional service. So it means that we have to dovetail our lives. We have to sacrifice maybe something of other things to perform more devotional service, and less of other things. We will definitely need to do something to maintain our body if we have some aspiration in this world. Some devotees don't have any aspiration in this world, so they just do devotional service, and whatever Krishna gives in their way, they accept it, and if Krishna doesn't give, they also are happy. But other kind of devotees may be still having some kind of making of plans, so then they will need to act in a world. But that should be, we won't say the word balance, because there is no balance between spiritual and material. It is either material or spiritual. So our majority of our day should be dedicated in spiritual activities, in devotional service, and then there will be some time when we need to dedicate to maintenance of this body. But it is explained also that if it is such a small amount of time, it is also counted as devotional service, because it supports the rest of the time you do devotional service. So that's how these rivers, desires, can be stopped, by allowing the ocean of Krishna consciousness to overflood. So it means we have to immerse ourselves in that ocean and not run away from that. So purport, we continue with purport. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly, but for those who are following in the impersonal way, to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of the foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth as the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti. But instead he takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way. The result is simply troublesome. Therefore it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in some ultimate result. So everybody search for Krishna in some way. It is said that when Jiva falls in the ocean of samsara, then he gets infected by disease, by sickness of forgetfulness of Krishna. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in a very beautiful language. He says, when a Jiva falls into well of samsara, he gets infected by the forgetfulness of Krishna, by sickness of forgetfulness of Krishna. And then he says, and in that, thus he is suffering the symptoms of that sickness by performing different activities in a material world. So burning in the poison of this sickness, he begins to think. So of course, he is saying that first he needs to attain that state of burning. Then he starts thinking. It is another place, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that every material activity results in pain. And it is designed like that. When the pain intensifies, when it becomes intense, then the jiva thinks. And what he is thinking? He's thinking, what is this life? It is I'm suffering so much. And then he starts thinking, I don't have a friend and I don't have a protection. So then he starts to think how to be protected from this suffering in this material world. And that he realizes his unfortunate position. So it is described that this suffering in this material world is an unfortunate position. And somebody may not even suffer like very vivid things. We may see people are also happy. But that sickness of forgetfulness of Krishna, that is actually the suffering. Although Jiva may not realize that, because the Maya has a function of making everything nice. It covers. First it pulls down and then it covers. We think we are very happy. Yeah? So in that sense, that suffering is just forgetfulness of Krishna. So that's why we know how everybody is looking for something in this world. Yeah? Somebody is looking for a wife, somebody is looking for a husband, somebody is looking for a girlfriend, somebody is looking for a phone, somebody is looking for the car. But what we are actually we are looking for this rasa. Where is it? Where is it? I want to taste it. And that's why we are so much inclined to change everything. Because we try one mobile and it didn't work the way we wanted. So the new model has come out. Maybe the new model is better. Because we are not satisfied with these all things what material world offers, because we are searching for that rasa. So then the person is realizing this unfortunate situation and searching for protection. So then I kind of in my mind drew a table with two arrows. One person is searching for protection and understands that protection comes from God. So he decides, I should become God. And then another person is searching for protection, and he's thinking protection comes from God. And he decides, I should surrender to God. So it is described that the person who is actually taking shelter of God, that is a fortune. So from misfortune, which is a material suffering, the sickness of forgetting Krishna, person becomes fortunate by surrendering to Krishna. And actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also explains that he's saying that endeavor of inquiry, the result, the positive result of endeavor of inquiry is actually attainment of sadhu sangha. So then, from that sadhu sangha, the faith is nurtured, and the person, and that's how, because what the fortune means? Fortune means to meet the devotee. Yeah? So, but the person who has decided to become God, even after meeting devotee, is very difficult for him to give up that idea. So it's not so easy. That's why it's troublesome. Everything is troublesome in this path. Prabhupada continues the purport. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of jnana yoga, may come to the point of bhakti-yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up this idea. So that's what I was just saying, that even after meeting devotee, because of that long practice of impersonalism, it's very difficult to give up that idea of impersonalism. It's just deeply rooted in a heart. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. It's against the nature of one's spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is danger of turning to the atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested is inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada here writes a very important sentence. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is danger of turning to atheism. So basically we can conclude that if one has no faith in devotional service, it's more or less atheism, we could say. Because what is devotional service? It is bhakti, and this is our relationship with the Lord. So if we have no faith in a relationship with the Lord, we are atheist. So that's why if we have no faith in devotional service, we are atheist. So we need to also understand that devotional service is not just a shallow thing that we mentioned in the very beginning of the class. So even though we are not able to practice devotional service in a very, very deep level, we should not deny existence of it. We should always keep it in forefront in our minds and pray and meditate when we will attain the depth of it. Because now in this body we do some activity and we call it devotional service, which it is devotional service. But that's the same thing as Prabhupada says, as licking with a tongue wrapped around with a cloth. We're doing something, but we are actually not experiencing the full thing. But then as gradually person advances from Shraddha to Ruchi and Bhava and Prema, then the quality of devotional service increases. So why this? What is the meaning of advancement through these stages? Why it is called advancement? Because the more advanced the servant is, the more master is pleased. So that's how we measure advancement, that the master is pleased. So in a very, very neophyte state, someone is doing something, but mind is not there. The hands are clumsy, everything you drop, everything you forget. So Krishna accepts out of compassion, the Guru accepts out of compassion, but really pleasure, they know, okay, if he continues, maybe later he will advance better. But then later, more and more, in the person who is serving, he understands the principles, the mood and the bhava of the devotional service and the mood of the master better. So that's why the person can serve better. So in that we can conclude that in a state of prema, that's when actually the devotional service is perfect. So that's why we should not neglect the thought of attainment of that prema, state of prema. Why? Not because we will experience so much prema and then we can dance in kirtan. Yes, sure, we can do it. But why it is important to attain that state? That Krishna is pleased by our service. Because really, if we analyze, we become a little bit jnanis now. We analyze what is this body. It is very dirty. It is only bones and blood and flesh and skin and hair and urine and stool. Everything which you cannot bring even close to the Lord. So with these bodies, we are serving. So how do we imagine? So this is basically just pure mercy that we can serve in these bodies. So we can conclude that this is not actually a real service with this body. This is just a mercy of Krishna to purify our mind and give us opportunity to get out of this bodily concept. And then we attain our spiritual body. We attain in a meaning, we have it already, but our consciousness purifies and transforms, and the real service starts in that spiritual body. It is, as I said, we were reading the introduction of Bhagavad-Gita, and it is very amazing how Prabhupada writes, and all these drops of nectar. We know that the constitutional position of Jiva is servant of Krishna. Yeah? Jiva Svarupa hoy, Nitya Krishna das. So this is Svarup. This is Svarupa of Jiva to be das. That's for sure. But then Srila Prabhupada writes, every living being out of many, many billions and trillions of living beings has a particular relationship with Lord eternally, and that is called Svarupa. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Svarupa, and that is called Svarupa Siddhi, perfection of one's constitutional position. So, we know that to serve the Lord is our Svarupa, but to serve perfectly, this is Svarupa Siddhi. So we cannot serve Lord perfectly, as much as we try, we cannot serve Lord perfectly as long as we have attained our spiritual bodies, and then we can serve in love, and love means prema. So that's why we should make this a goal of our lives in whatever stage we are now. It doesn't matter, but goal should be the same, and the goal should be in the forefront on our mind. Someone was making a point, yes, we can also have some sub-goals in between. It's true, we can have to attain, but then we should not lose the big goal. Like if we want to go to some kind of city, there may be many small villages in between, and we may stop in some village to buy water or to fill up the petrol in a car, but it's not that we stay in that village. We still continue to go there. to the city where we want to, what we were planning to reach. So that's why, although we are serving the Lord, although now with this body, by the mercy of the Lord, He is allowing us to do and He is tolerating that, and this is our Svarupa, but we should not be just satisfied by quoting that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that our Svarupa is this and this is my Svarupa. More than that, we have to attain, according to Srila Prabhupada, written here in introduction, that Svarupa Siddhi, we have to attain perfection of our Svarupa. Because if we really want to serve the Master, we want to serve them perfectly. So to serve perfectly, we have to attain perfection. It is very simple and very logical. So, and in that way we can say that if we can serve the Lord perfectly, if our constitutional position is to serve, and to serve perfectly can be possible in prema, and to attain prema in this age, Mahaprabhu has given his Sankirtan. So we can conclude that Sankirtan is our constitutional position, because that's what brings us to this Svarup Siddhi. So that's why we should not waste our time in too much considering or not considering. We should, with simple heart, engage in chanting of the holy name. And then we will see. We don't need to ask anyone. Like Prabhupada says, when a hungry man eats, he knows when he is full. So the holy name will give us all the realizations. Of course, we also need to follow the path, and we need to also endeavor to be purified by sadhana and by siddhanta. But ultimately, the holy name is our friend, and holy name is everything. Because why? Because Krishna is the holy name, and He very mercifully has come to us. And He very mercifully is forcing Himself into our ears from the mouths of devotees, from the mouths of pure devotees. So we should not block our ears, and we should open our mouth and chant the holy name as loud as possible. And Prabhupada said, if we in our room chant the holy name very, very loudly, and the neighbors come and they complain, then we should know that our mission has been completed. So let's chant the holy name very loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And of course we should understand that just one mantra is not enough to attain prema. So we should do it continuously, 24 hours, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Is there any comments or corrections? Please. Yes, the microphone is on.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class. What I understand is that seeds or the symptoms of the devotion already put by the Lord by birth to the human being in the human being. And we have to develop it by the association and by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. And we have to develop the devotion this way. Is it?
Yeah, that's why I was saying that Svarupa means one's own natural form, natural being is to serve Krishna, is to be servant of Krishna. But servant, what does it mean? Servant doesn't mean that someone is beating you and you are sweeping the floor or cooking. In this connection, because we said bhakti also means feelings. So in connection with Krishna, it means serving with love. Love. Because Krishna is the owner of everything. What does Krishna not own? Everything. So we have nothing to give to Him or render any kind of service. He is fully complete. He has millions of Lakshmis and gopis serving him, why does he need of our imperfections? But our love he likes. So that's why these loving feelings we need to develop. We have them already. It is our nature. It is our nature. It's nothing injected. It is there. It's us. But now, as I said, we have fallen into well of samsara and we have been infected by the sickness of forgetfulness to Krishna. So we forgot about it. We forgot. So we need to revive our natural Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada says it is not an artificial imposition in one's mind. It is natural. It is natural. But in the very beginning, maybe it seems something artificial because of so much habituated thinkings that I am this body. But very soon, that Krishna consciousness is revived. Very, very soon. Especially by Sankirtan, because this is the method. This is the prescribed method. And then the feelings come. And when the feelings come, then actually desire to do some activity manifests more. So it's natural, like there is example Prabhupada gives so many times. Then wife says, wife loves husband so much. And naturally when you love husband or husband loves wife, they think of each other. So now husband has gone somewhere and wife is sitting home and waiting and thinking. So now she is thinking, my husband is not here. I'm missing my husband so much. Or when my husband will come. And then husband comes. And he says, I'm so hungry. Did you cook something? He said, no, I didn't cook because I was missing you so much that I didn't cook. Yeah. So, but if we actually think of someone, we not just think of some picture or some kind of outward dress. We think of personality. So naturally we will assume after a long journey he will be hungry. So I have to cook. So it means that if we actually have some feelings to Krishna, maybe not to call love, because love is something very high in a matter to love Krishna, but some feelings we have. So these feelings will provoke us to act. And by this activity, our senses and mind will become purified. So when our mind is fully purified, then we will be able to perform service also internally with our spiritual body, even while in this material body. But while we have not attained this state, which means Shuddha state, when we don't chant Shuddha Nam, when we don't have this pure state of mind, we have to engage our senses in some kind of activity. And not any kind of activity in a material world, but any kind of activity in Krishna consciousness. Like that. Hare Krishna. Anyone, Prabhuji, you had Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, can Bhakti Marga be made simplified in the terms that Ajamil, during his final moments of life, just by calling out for his son, Narayana, 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 it concluded in the fight between the Yamdutas and Devdutas. They wanted to take away the soul, but throughout his life, he did not follow any Bhakti Marga or did not do any chanting.
Yeah, but that calling his son caused him to remember Narayan. In the beginning he was just calling the son, but then he actually remembered. But then what happened? What did he attain? He attained next life where we can have another chance. He to actually perfect himself.
So it is the goal of the Bhakti Marga is that we should not come again in this material world.
Unless Krishna wants you so much to come for some particular purpose, then you come. But our goal should be to serve Krishna in whatever way he wants us to serve. And it's not that we think that, okay, we don't need to go back home to God because this may be something selfish, but it's not in a sense that because we have so much attachment in the material world, so we make that as excuse. No, we want to go back home to Godhead because we can serve Krishna there very nicely. Because here with this material body, we cannot serve Krishna very nicely. But if Krishna gives us some task, then we come.
Next,
Hare Krishna.
Madhurya, as you were speaking before, that how we can get Krishna. So, Prabhupada gave the example, the 4 type of people, they come to Krishna consciousness, one who is in distress, one who is in knowledge, one who is inquisitive, and all these 4 things. So, when person is in distress, he don't know what to do. Krishna gave him choice, that if you go to Krishna consciousness, that will be better for you. But sometimes Krishna gives him option, whether you want to drink wine, people go mad and drink more wine, or they go after women, they go after money, they do so many things. Krishna allows them whatever they require. But one who is completely in distress and is thinking that what I have to do, then Krishna send him to the Guru. Then he get Guru, from the Guru he get the knowledge, then he is perfectly coming to Krishna consciousness. But other 3, 4, they are totally bewildered, not bewildered them because their mind is not concentrating on that what I should do. Well, he has sent me the wine, I should be busy in my wine, they drink wine and women and other things. They are completely in those things. And they cannot understand that Krishna is in our heart. And Krishna, one who is in distress, he is giving him guidance as Paramatma in his heart, telling him that you have to be in Krishna consciousness. So he goes there and understand that what I have to do. Then he gets the association of devotee, then devotee bring him to Krishna consciousness, then he associate with them and he understand my sarup, my original constitutional position is that I should serve Krishna. So this is how that Krishna consciousness person who is Krishna is giving them remembrance and forgetfulness. So this remembrance is given by Krishna, and how the person he gets this one. And in Krishna consciousness there are also lot of disturbance, but he cross over the disturbance and he get the opportunity to serve, and whatever service is doing, he is satisfied with that service. He is not demanding that Krishna, I want this position, I want that one. No, just I want to serve you in that way. So this conscious position of a living entity is to serve Krishna, Nitya Das. So we are all Nitya Das, and we should understand that Krishna is giving us guidance. He is giving guidance. We are nobody because he is in Atma, Paramatma in our heart, and he is guiding us that how we should be totally attracted to Krishna.
Yeah. Krishna is giving us forgetfulness and he is also giving us remembrance. So, and Krishna also says in Bhagavad-Gita that don't disturb all these people who want to enjoy. In 3rd chapter, he says, don't disturb them, let them do. And in 18th chapter, he says, don't preach this knowledge to those who are not austere and this and that. But then Prabhupada says, but devotees still do disturb and they still do speak. So what you can speak to someone like this who always drinks wine? Nothing you will speak. Who will listen to you? Who will listen to you, someone who is not austere? Why would Krishna mention all these qualities? Who is not austere, who is envious? Who will listen? Nobody will listen. That's why we have to do chanting holy name. Because even if they don't want to listen, they are hearing anyway. They have no choice. And then they get purified.
You see, just when Prabhupada went to the West, they were LSD, drinkers, hippies, and they were not interested in this one. But when a pure devotee speaks, then it touches the heart of the person and it automatically changes. Just like speaking the touchstone, Prabhupada gave the example of touchstone. If you touchstone touch iron, he becomes a gold. So just like Prabhupada, he was just like a touchstone. He went there and he saw these people, they are doing so many nonsense things. But he touched them and they became pure devotee like him, and they propagated the holy name of the Lord all over the world. And Prabhupada was always praising them that you are helping this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu movement, and Krishna will take you back from that. Right?
Yeah, Prabhupada is touchstone and holy name is touchstone. So even someone is not as pure as Srila Prabhupada. They still can chant the holy name for one's own benefit and for the benefit of others. But of course, the more we are pure, the more potent name we can chant. So that's one thing. And another thing which I wanted to mention about these all people who were taking LSD and this and that, actually, it's not that they weren't interested in any kind of spiritual realization. Actually, that's why they took to all these abominable activities, because this was their call out. We don't like anything here in this material world, but what we can do. So this LSD was giving them some kind of hallucination. So they were, I don't know exactly, of course, what they were doing. I wasn't that time there, or maybe I was, but I don't remember in my previous life. But my point is, what I wanted to say, that these kind of so-called wretched people who do such abominable activities, in one sense, are more qualified than somebody who is very pious and fully absorbed in their mode of goodness life and happily worship millions of devatas to gain good husband, to gain good result in exam. They are becoming so satisfied in that life that last thing they want to hear is about self-realization. And in fact, when Advaita Acharya met Mahaprabhu, unfortunately, I don't remember right now all the details of the pastime, but when Mahaprabhu descended, Advaita Acharya went to see him, and his wife Sita Devi prepared Aarti plate, and Mahaprabhu asked him, boon, give me a boon. And Advaita Acharya said, I don't need any boon. But still he insisted, Mahaprabhu insisted. So then Advaita Acharya said, you have come to distribute the love of God. So he said, those who think that they are qualified, don't give them. But those who think they are not qualified, you give them. And Mahaprabhu said, let it be. So this is Advaita Acharya's request. So that's why, in this sense, the piety is actually disqualification in Kali Yuga, especially in this Kali Yuga where Mahaprabhu distributes a holy name. Krishna Prema, is a holy name. So that's why it is said that in Kali Yuga, all the lower class, like Shudra, women, and in Kali Yuga, they are actually the most fortunate because they are most unqualified. So Mahaprabhu is giving them by request of Advaita Acharya. So this kind of piety which we may observe here in India, it's very good. It is so inspiring how people be so pious. When I grew up in West, I never saw anything like this. But when you want to ask them tell them about Krishna or about surrender to Krishna, they turn around and they go away. It was very surprising for me. When you ask them to chant the holy name, they sit in kirtan and they only talk or take photos. And it's good that they have come to, in a Western world, you won't see people going with thousands to churches or even temples. But somehow they surrender, they join. But here when you will ask, I have so many times experience when I ask them to chant the holy name, they stand up and they go. So then I feel maybe I did the wrong thing. I should have sat here and just sit, and why do I ask them to chant the holy name? So they could just do. So like this. So disqualification is qualification in Kali Yuga. And qualification is disqualification. Anything else? Or you wanted to ask something? Say something?
Chapter 5, text 6.
I should read.
The text is closely related to this chapter and also this today's verse.
Chapter 5, text 6. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Haribol! So let's engage in devotional service and achieve the supreme without delay. Hare Krishna.
The Sanskrit word
Yeah, Nachirena
without delay.
Adigachi, without delay, attains. Yes. Hare Krishna, thank you. So 5, 6, without delay. Mike, can you give? What is this?
About preaching to the people to do abominable activities. And in the beginning, when Prabhupada went to Western countries, so was actually he couldn't tell them philosophy of life. No, because they can listen. Prabhupada was beautiful. He knew exactly what to do. He exactly knew what to do. And what he did is just chanting the holy names. And that's when he started. All his preaching was success. Truly successful in his preaching. He started just with the holy names. And eventually, because he experienced and he can hear maybe was chanting the holy names.
Yeah, it's true. Even there was some places later on when Prabhupada arrived. One was, I think it was Amsterdam, and somewhere else that they had arranged for a hall, and Prabhupada sat on his Vyasasan, and when he saw the crowd, he just did kirtan. He didn't do the class. So like that.
And also there is one
Mike?
he was having he was invited, I think that he personally speak or something. Yes, was in personalist, Mayavadis. And then Prabhupada, the Mayavadi spoke and in Hindi, and his disciples didn't understand much, was in Hindi. And Prabhupada was listening on the lecture, he can understand. And he didn't reply anything in philosophy, nothing. Only he says, all his disciples, he says, just chant the holy names, keep, and everybody started the
Because this is a method. This is a method. Hare Krishna. It's an introduction. Yeah. It is where Prabhupada lists 5 rasas. Just next paragraph. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Nam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai.